There comes a time when staying becomes heavier than leaving, when peace whispers louder than pride and silence becomes your loudest answer. There comes a point when the soul grows tired, not from effort, but from enduring too much that was never meant for it. Knowing when to leave is not an act of surrender, it's an awakening. It's that moment when your heart no longer finds rhythm in a place it once called home. You can feel it before you admit it. The air grows heavier, the smiles start feeling forced. The laughter no longer reaches your eyes. Everything in you whispers that you've outgrown what you're still trying to fit inside. But still, you stay. You stay because of the memories, because of what once was, because you think maybe if you just love harder, try more, wait longer, something will change. Yet the truth is, no amount of love can water what was never meant to bloom again. Knowing when to leave requires courage, the kind that doesn't shout but trembles quietly in the chest, urging you to choose yourself. It's not an easy knowing, it's a slow revelation. You start noticing how your peace gets smaller each day you stay. You start realizing that the person you used to be is fading beneath the weight of trying to hold together something that's already falling apart. It's not selfish to walk away from what breaks you. It's sacred. It's a promise to yourself that your heart deserves gentleness, your mind deserves stillness, and your spirit deserves freedom. So many people confuse loyalty with imprisonment. They believe staying in a place that no longer nurtures them is a sign of strength. But strength is not about endurance. It's about alignment. Sometimes strength means unclenching your fists, letting go of what you were fighting for, and trusting that leaving is also a form of love. You see, endings are not betrayals. They are beginnings disguised in pain. When you choose to leave, you're not abandoning something. You're choosing to honor your truth. There is an art to recognizing that certain chapters are not meant to continue. You can love something deeply and still realize it's not your forever. That realization doesn't make the love less real. It simply means the lesson has been learned. Life has a rhythm, and every experience, every person enters our story for a season. But when that season ends, trying to extend it only leads to suffering. Knowing when to leave is understanding that timing is sacred, and forcing what's meant to fade is a quiet way of betraying yourself. It takes wisdom to see that not every battle deserves your energy, not every situation requires your explanation, and not every person deserves front row access to your peace. You owe it to yourself to listen when your intuition whispers, "It's time." Because long before the mind accepts it, the heart already knows. That quiet unease, that restlessness, that ache. It's the soul's way of saying you've stayed too long where you no longer belong, but still, we hold on. We hold on because endings feel like failure. Because we've been taught that letting go means giving up. But sometimes letting go is the only way to save yourself. You are not weak for walking away. Weakness is staying in places that drain your joy, silence your voice, or dim your light. Leaving is an act of bravery, especially when your heart still cares. It means you are choosing peace over chaos, truth over comfort, growth over familiarity. The moment you realize your worth, leaving becomes less about running away and more about returning to yourself. You start understanding that your energy is your most valuable currency, and you can't spend it where it's not respected. There will be people who won't understand your choice. They'll call you cold, selfish, ungrateful. But they don't feel the heaviness that lives in your chest. They don't see the nights you spent convincing yourself to stay. They don't hear the silent cries that echoed inside your soul. They only see the leaving, not the breaking that led up to it. But you don't owe them understanding. You owe yourself liberation. You owe yourself the right to say, "This no longer serves me," and walk away without apology. Walking away is not a single act, it's a process. It begins long before you take the final step. It starts with accepting that something has changed, then grieving what used to be, and finally, choosing yourself without guilt. You'll feel the ache of missing what you left behind. You'll question if you made the right choice. You'll replay moments in your mind, wondering if you could have done more. But healing is not about rewriting what happened. It's about making peace with what is. One day you'll look back and understand why it had to happen the way it did. You'll see that walking away wasn't an end. It was an opening. That the moment you stopped chasing what was fading, life began to bring you what was meant. You'll realize that leaving doesn't always mean loss. Sometimes it means gaining yourself back. Because when you walk away from what no longer aligns with your soul, you make room for peace, for clarity, for new beginnings that feel like home. It's not about walking away in anger or bitterness. It's about walking away with grace, with your dignity intact and your heart unpoisoned by resentment. You can leave and still wish well. You can close the door without slamming it. That's real strength. That's maturity. When you choose to leave gracefully, you're not running from something. You're walking toward your own light. Knowing when to leave is the highest form of self-awareness. It's the art of saying, "I deserve better," even when it hurts. It's the wisdom to recognize that peace is worth the price of distance. And it's the faith to believe that what's waiting ahead is more beautiful than what you're leaving behind. It's not easy to trust the unknown, but the unknown is where your freedom lives. So listen to the quiet voice within you. It may not shout, but it always tells the truth. It will guide you toward the places your soul can breathe again. And when you finally find the courage to leave, don't look back with regret. Look back with gratitude for the lessons, for the love, for the strength you found in the letting go. Because every ending you honor gracefully becomes the beginning of a life lived in truth. And there is no greater act of strength than knowing when to walk away, not in anger, not in fear, but in peace. Grace is silent strength. It's the calm that walks in after the storm has raged, the quiet dignity that refuses to be shaken by chaos. Grace is not loud and it doesn't demand attention. It doesn't beg to be seen or praised. It simply exists, steady, poised, and powerful in its stillness. Some people mistake silence for weakness, but those who've carried pain and still choose peace know the truth. Grace is not the absence of strength. It is strength refined, matured, and softened by wisdom. There is something sacred about responding with calm when the world expects your rage. It takes a fierce kind of courage to hold your peace in moments that invite your destruction. Anyone can fight, shout, or curse when they are wronged. But it takes an unbreakable spirit to stay grounded, to breathe deeply, and to walk away with dignity intact. Grace doesn't mean you are unaffected. It means you've mastered the art of being still in the face of storms that would have once broken you. Grace is the gentle whisper that says, "I know who I am, and nothing you do can make me forget that." It's a kind of inner strength that doesn't need to prove itself. When you've learned the power of grace, you stop reacting to every insult, every rumor, every act of disrespect. You realize not everything deserves your energy. Not every attack deserves your defense. You begin to understand that silence can speak volumes because your peace is more precious than your pride. There was a time when you may have felt the need to explain yourself to everyone, to defend your name, to correct the lies. But as you grow, you learn that people will believe what they want to believe. And that's all right. Their perception is not your truth. Grace is knowing you don't have to participate in every battle you're invited to. You can decline the invitation to chaos and still stand strong. You can stay silent and still be powerful, because true power does not come from proving a point. It comes from protecting your peace. Grace is not passive. It's not pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It's choosing how to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with wounds. Grace knows when to speak and when to stay quiet, when to walk away and when to stand firm. It's the balance between confidence and humility, strength and softness. To carry grace is to carry control over your emotions without being controlled by them. You stop giving your power away to people who thrive on your reaction. You understand that composure is not indifference. It's emotional intelligence in motion. The world often celebrates those who roar, who fight back, who dominate the noise. But there is an unmatched beauty in the one who stands tall in silence, unmoved, unbothered, and unbroken. Grace doesn't shout to prove it's right. It knows truth doesn't need validation. The calm soul doesn't need to convince anyone. It simply lives in alignment with what's right. Grace is steady. Grace is self-assured. Grace is the quiet power that no chaos can steal. Sometimes grace means not responding to the hurtful message, not showing up to the argument, not sending the last word. It's the decision to value your peace more than your ego. It's the understanding that peace is not found in winning every fight. It's found in choosing which fights are worth your spirit. People may misinterpret your silence as surrender, but silence can be the loudest declaration of strength. It says, "You no longer have the power to shake me." Grace is what keeps your heart kind even after it's been broken. It's what makes you smile gently at those who once tried to destroy your peace. It's what allows you to wish well on those who hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You refuse to carry bitterness. You refuse to let hate stain your spirit. That's grace, loving yourself enough not to let the darkness of others take your light. There's a rare kind of freedom in no longer needing revenge. When you learn to let karma and time do their quiet work, you stop chasing closure from people who will never understand your worth. Grace teaches you that you don't need to expose anyone. You just let truth reveal itself. You don't rush to prove who was right or wrong. Life has a way of showing it all in time. Your only job is to rise above, stay kind, and keep your peace intact. That's the kind of power no one can take from you. Grace isn't always quiet tears or gentle smiles. Sometimes it's walking away when everything in you wants to stay and fight. Sometimes it's letting go of the need to control what's already gone. Sometimes it's choosing solitude over noise, patience over anger, and forgiveness over revenge. Grace doesn't mean you're not hurt. It means you've chosen to heal without causing more harm. It's the decision to protect your light, even in the darkness. There's a maturity that comes with choosing grace. It means you've seen enough pain to understand that reacting to everything will only drain your spirit. You've learned that peace is more valuable than the satisfaction of being right. You've learned that not every ending needs a dramatic finale, and not every wound needs to be avenged. You've learned that letting go is not weakness, it's wisdom. And you've learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Grace allows you to walk through fire without letting it burn your soul. It's what makes you bow your head in prayer instead of anger. It's what helps you breathe deeply and move forward when you have every reason to collapse. Grace is what keeps you kind in a world that rewards cruelty. It's what reminds you that your peace is not negotiable, that your joy doesn't depend on anyone's apology, and that your worth remains untouchable. When you carry grace, you begin to see people differently. You stop expecting perfection. You start seeing pain behind anger, fear behind arrogance, and sadness behind hate. Grace gives you eyes to understand instead of judge. It doesn't mean you allow disrespect. It means you choose not to match it. You don't let the world turn you into what hurt you. You rise gently, knowing that staying soft in a hard world is a strength very few can manage. Grace is not about pretending life doesn't hurt. It's about trusting that the hurt won't last forever. It's the faith that whispers, "You'll be okay," even when you don't yet see how. Grace teaches you patience with yourself, compassion for others, and peace in uncertainty. It's the quiet confidence that whatever is meant for you will never miss you, and whatever has left you was never meant to stay. There is elegance in restraint. There is beauty in calm. There is strength in softness. Grace transforms pain into power and endings into evolution. It helps you stand in the middle of chaos and still hold your center. When you live with grace, you stop chasing validation and start attracting peace. You begin to understand that grace doesn't need to announce itself. It simply shines. People may never know what it took for you to stay calm when you could have exploded, to stay kind when you could have been cruel, to walk away when you could have stayed and fought. But you know the storms you silenced inside yourself. You know the tears you swallowed to keep your dignity. You know the prayers whispered in moments of breaking. And that knowing, that self-awareness, that quiet resilience is grace. Grace is the strength that moves in silence, the power that needs no proof. It's the choice to rise with kindness in a world that often mistakes cruelty for strength. It's the decision to be gentle with yourself, even when life isn't gentle with you. And though grace may not make noise, it leaves its mark. It heals hearts, restores peace, and turns pain into wisdom. Because real strength is not found in shouting. It's found in standing tall, silent and unshaken, knowing that no storm can take away the calm within you. Loving without losing yourself is one of the hardest lessons the heart must learn. Love, when pure, is a beautiful surrender, but when it becomes survival, it turns into self-erasure. We often confuse devotion with disappearance. We think giving everything to someone is proof of love, but love was never meant to demand your whole identity as payment. True love should not ask you to shrink to fit another's comfort or silence your truth to keep their peace. It's not love if it costs you yourself. In the beginning, love feels like home. You want to give, to pour, to share the deepest parts of who you are. That's natural, beautiful even. But somewhere along the way, many of us begin to forget that home isn't supposed to burn us down. You start bending, accommodating, softening every edge until you can hardly recognize your reflection. You tell yourself, "It's okay, this is what love looks like," while your spirit quietly whispers, "This is too much." You lose your boundaries in the name of connection, your voice in the name of harmony, your needs in the name of care. And one day you wake up realizing you've been loving them but neglecting you. Loving without losing yourself means remembering that you are whole on your own. Love should be a bridge, not a burial ground. It should expand you, not confine you. The right kind of love will never ask you to betray your own soul to stay. It will never punish you for having needs, opinions, or dreams. It will celebrate your individuality, not compete with it. It will hold space for your light, not dim it. Love that is healthy does not demand sacrifice. It invites balance. There is a quiet tragedy in giving more than you receive, in trying to keep something alive by feeding it parts of yourself. That kind of love feels noble, but it's not sustainable. It drains instead of nourishes. You start calling exhaustion devotion and emptiness loyalty. But real love doesn't drain you, it fills you. It energizes, restores, and reminds you of who you are, not who you have to become to be accepted. Many of us learned love through patterns of pain. We saw people stay even when it hurt. We were taught that endurance equals affection, that to love is to tolerate. So we confuse suffering with sincerity. We think if it's hard, it must be real. But love isn't meant to break you to prove it's true. The love that requires you to abandon yourself is not love. It's attachment, fear, or dependency dressed in devotion's clothing. The moment you start losing your peace to keep someone else, you've already stepped outside the borders of love and into self-sacrifice. Loving without losing yourself means setting boundaries, even when it feels uncomfortable. It means understanding that saying no doesn't make you unkind, it makes you honest. It means realizing that protecting your peace is not rejection, it's respect. When you know your worth, you stop settling for half love, for almost, for maybes. You stop chasing those who only show up when it's convenient. You stop explaining your heart to those who've already decided not to understand it. Love is not supposed to cost you your self-respect. It's supposed to remind you of it. Real love doesn't punish you for being yourself. It encourages it. The people meant for you will never ask you to hide your truth just to keep their comfort intact. They will meet you where you are, and if they cannot, they will step aside with grace. Because love without mutual respect isn't love. It's control disguised as care. There's a tenderness in loving fully while staying rooted in yourself. It means you give, but you don't give away your identity. You share, but you don't surrender your center. You care deeply, but not destructively. You let love move through you, not consume you. The kind of love that lasts is the one that allows both people to breathe, to grow, to be. It's the love that holds hands without holding hostage. You must understand, losing yourself in love is not romantic. It's painful. It's like watering someone else's garden while your own wilts. You can't pour endlessly from an empty heart. You can't keep giving from a place that's never refilled. Love was never meant to be depletion. It was meant to be exchange. If you find yourself giving and giving while your soul grows quieter, that's not love thriving. That's you fading. To love without losing yourself, you must first know who you are outside of anyone else. Know your values, your dreams, your limits. Know what brings you joy and what drains you. Know what you deserve and refuse to negotiate it for temporary comfort. Because when you know yourself deeply, you love differently. You stop clinging to what hurts, stop mistaking pain for passion. You start seeing love as something that should add to your life, not define it. Love should never make you forget the sound of your own voice. It should never make you feel smaller, quieter, less seen. Love that asks you to erase yourself is not love. It's fear dressed in affection. And no matter how familiar that fear feels, it is not home. You deserve a love that meets you where you are, that honors your growth, that lets you evolve without asking you to dim your light. You deserve to be loved in a way that feels like freedom, not like sacrifice. It takes strength to love someone fully while keeping yourself intact. It takes courage to say, I love you, but I will not lose myself for you. It takes wisdom to understand that boundaries are not walls. They are doors that open to mutual respect. And it takes grace to know when love has turned into something that no longer honors your soul. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back. Sometimes love asks you to let go, not because you don't care, but because you finally care enough about yourself to stop breaking to be understood. Loving without losing yourself means realizing that your love should be an addition to your life, not an escape from it. You don't need to dissolve into another to feel whole. You were complete long before they arrived. Love should make that completeness shine brighter, not disappear. You can love deeply and still choose yourself. You can care for someone and still say, "This isn't right for me." You can be soft without being small. You can give love without giving away your power. One day you'll meet someone, or perhaps you'll learn to be that someone, who understands that love is not about possession, but partnership, who will see you not as an extension of themselves, but as a whole being with your own dreams, fire, and truth. That kind of love will never ask you to choose between connection and self-respect. It will remind you that love isn't about losing yourself. It's about finding yourself reflected in another without disappearing in their shadow. Because in the end, the most beautiful love you can ever experience is the one that allows you to be fully you, unfiltered, unbroken, and unapologetically whole. The kind of love that doesn't demand your disappearance, but celebrates your existence. The kind that teaches you that real love doesn't ask you to lose yourself. It helps you come home to who you are. There comes a moment when the only way to find yourself again is to step back. Distance, though often misunderstood, is not a form of weakness. It's a declaration of strength. It's the quiet decision to choose peace over proximity, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over endless explanations. Reclaiming your power through distance means understanding that sometimes healing doesn't happen in the same space where you were hurt. It happens when you finally create enough room to hear your own thoughts again, when you stop trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you, and when you begin to see that peace is not found in fixing others, but in freeing yourself. Distance is not about bitterness or avoidance. It's about self-preservation. It's about honoring the truth that you can't keep standing in the same storm expecting different weather. There's a sacred strength in saying, "I love you, but I can't stay here anymore. I care, but I must care for myself too." When you step back, you give your spirit space to breathe again. You start to see things clearly, the patterns, the imbalances, the energy you've been pouring into something that keeps leaving you empty. That's when the power you once gave away begins to flow back to you. Reclaiming your power through distance is not about winning. It's not about proving who was right or wrong. It's about choosing yourself after a long season of choosing others. It's about realizing that not everyone deserves access to your energy, your emotions, or your effort. When you remove yourself from what drains you, you begin to remember what you're capable of. You stop operating in survival mode and start breathing in strength again. You learn that love doesn't mean staying close. It sometimes means stepping back so that peace can find you again. It's easy to think that walking away is giving up, but in truth, it's an act of courage. It takes strength to put distance between you and what's breaking your spirit. It takes wisdom to know that sometimes silence speaks louder than confrontation. When you distance yourself from the noise, the confusion, and the constant push and pull, you begin to hear your own voice again, the one that got buried under expectations, pain, and fear. That voice is your compass, your truth, your power. Distance brings clarity that closeness cannot. When you're too close to something, emotions cloud your judgment. You start excusing red flags, rationalizing behavior, minimizing your own hurt. But when you step back, perspective sharpens. You begin to see not just what was done to you, but what you allowed, ignored, or tolerated in the name of love, loyalty, or fear of being alone. That awareness isn't meant to bring shame. It's meant to bring freedom. You can't change what you won't confront, and you can't confront what you refuse to see. Distance opens your eyes to truths that only silence can reveal. It's within that space of separation that you begin to reclaim your worth. You remember that you are not defined by how others treated you, but by how you choose to rise after being hurt. Distance teaches you that peace is not found in people, it's found in presence. When you stop chasing closure, explanations, or apologies that may never come, you start giving yourself what you've been waiting for: validation, acceptance, and love. You realize you don't need anyone else to confirm your value. You are enough, even in your solitude. There's a quiet beauty in detachment. It's not about shutting down emotionally. It's about no longer allowing your emotions to be controlled by others. You stop reacting to every word, every action, every absence. You stop explaining your peace. You stop trying to convince others to treat you right. Instead, you redirect that energy inward. You start building yourself up, nurturing your own dreams, investing in your own growth. The distance that once felt like loss slowly transforms into liberation. You start seeing yourself again, hearing yourself again, trusting yourself again. You learn that not everything lost was a loss. Some things had to end so that you could return to yourself. Distance reveals the power of detachment, the realization that peace doesn't require the approval of those who caused your pain. It requires your decision to stop reliving the same story. When you detach, you take back control of your emotional space. You stop letting old memories dictate your mood, and you begin to define new meanings for your life. The power that was once scattered across people, places, and wounds starts to return home to you. It's in that solitude that you rebuild your strength. You learn to sit with your own company without feeling empty. You begin to understand that solitude is not loneliness, it's clarity. It's the place where you finally meet yourself without distractions, without expectations, without noise. You begin to realize how much energy you gave away trying to be understood, how much peace you sacrificed trying to belong, and how much love you withheld from yourself trying to earn it from others. Distance helps you see all of this, not with bitterness, but with awakening. Reclaiming your power through distance is also about boundaries. It's about finally saying, I will no longer give people permission to disturb my peace. You begin to understand that protecting your energy is not cruelty, it's wisdom. You can forgive people and still keep them far from your sacred space. You can wish them well and still choose not to let them near you again. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconnection, it means release. You don't owe anyone access to your healing. When you pull away, people will notice. Some will accuse you of changing. Others will call you distant, cold, or detached. But what they won't see is the quiet revolution happening inside you, the way your peace is returning, your clarity is sharpening, and your heart is finding its rhythm again. You no longer dance to the tune of chaos. You move in silence, guided by peace. That's what reclaiming your power looks like. It's not loud, it's not vengeful, it's calm, steady, and sure. Distance teaches you to stop chasing what keeps running, to stop knocking on doors that were never meant to open again, to stop searching for home in places that only bring you pain. You learn to stand still, to trust time, and to understand that everything that left you made space for something better. The space you create by walking away is not emptiness, it's opportunity. It's where your healing breathes, your confidence grows, and your new beginning waits. There's power in being okay on your own, power in realizing that you don't need constant validation to feel worthy, power in knowing that your peace is not up for negotiation. When you reclaim your power through distance, you become your own anchor. You stop depending on others to steady you. You find peace within, and that kind of peace can't be shaken. You become calm, not because life gets easier, but because you no longer hand your peace to anyone who didn't earn it. And slowly, distance stops feeling like loss. It starts feeling like coming home. You realize that stepping back was never about leaving someone else behind. It was about returning to yourself. Because sometimes the only way to find your strength again is to walk away, stand still, and let the silence remind you of who you've always been, whole, powerful, and enough. The silence after goodbye is unlike any other sound. It is not quiet, it's full, heavy, echoing with everything that was once said and everything that never got the chance to be spoken. It follows you into the spaces they once filled, into the mornings that no longer begin with their voice, into the nights where the air feels too still to breathe. At first, the silence feels unbearable, like a void swallowing everything that used to make sense. You reach for noise, for distraction, for anything that can drown out the ache. But no matter how loud the world becomes, silence finds its way back in. And in that silence, life begins to teach you something you could never learn in the noise: how to listen to yourself again. When someone leaves, whether by choice or by circumstance, the emptiness that follows can feel endless. The mind replays the moments, the words, the laughter, the mistakes. You search for closure, for understanding, for something to hold on to in the quiet aftermath. But closure doesn't always come wrapped in explanations. Sometimes it comes wrapped in silence. Sometimes the absence of words is the answer itself. And that realization stings, because we are conditioned to believe that endings should come with clarity, that love should leave us with understanding. But often goodbyes leave us only with stillness, and it's in that stillness that real healing begins. At first, the silence feels cruel. It feels like punishment. You wonder if they think of you, if they miss you, if they ever cared at all. The mind begins to fill the silence with stories, with assumptions, with ghosts of what if. But silence has no agenda. It doesn't confirm or deny. It simply waits. It's there to show you that healing isn't about getting answers. It's about learning to live without needing them. The silence after goodbye forces you to confront the parts of yourself you kept hidden in the noise of someone else's presence. It shows you how much of yourself you gave away trying to keep something that was already slipping through your fingers. In the beginning, you will try to resist it. You'll want to fill the quiet with company, with movement, with distractions that make you forget. You'll try to run from it, believing that peace means forgetting. But peace isn't found in escape. It's found in acceptance. The silence asks you to sit still and listen, to hear your own breathing, your own heart, your own truth. It asks you to face the emptiness without fear and realize that it's not emptiness at all. It's space. Space for your strength to return. Space for your heart to rest. Space for new beginnings to take root. There's a shift that happens once you stop fighting the silence. The same stillness that once felt unbearable starts to feel sacred. You begin to see that the quiet isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. It teaches you that healing doesn't always come in the form of words or closure from another person. Sometimes healing comes in the form of sitting in your own company without needing anything to change. You begin to notice small things again, the way the morning light hits your window, the sound of your own laughter returning after weeks of absence, the calm in your chest that comes and goes like waves. Slowly, the silence becomes less heavy. It begins to sound like peace. There's a certain strength in surviving the silence after goodbye, because it's in those moments of stillness that you rediscover the parts of yourself that got lost in the noise of someone else's world. You start remembering who you were before them, what made you smile without reason, what made you feel alive without validation, The silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back everything you forgot to love about yourself. It doesn't rush you. It doesn't demand. It just waits patiently as you learn to fill the spaces they left behind with your own presence. The silence also reveals truths you couldn't see before. When you're in the noise of constant connection, you often ignore your own discomfort. You tolerate things that chip away at your peace because you fear being alone. But silence has a way of stripping away illusions. It makes you see who truly valued you and who only needed you. It exposes the difference between love and attachment, between attention and affection. It shows you how often you mistook noise for connection. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the gift of silence. It reveals what the noise was hiding. In the quiet, forgiveness finds its way in. Not necessarily forgiveness for them, but for yourself. You start forgiving yourself for staying too long, for giving too much, for hoping too hard. You realize that love was never your mistake. Your heart simply believed in the good it saw. And while it hurts to lose, it also means you were brave enough to care. The silence softens the sharp edges of grief, turning anger into understanding and longing into gratitude. It reminds you that endings aren't just about loss, they're about return. A return to your own voice, your own rhythm, your own soul. The silence after goodbye teaches you patience. Healing doesn't happen all at once. Some days you'll feel strong, ready to face the world again. Other days, the silence will hit harder and you'll ache for what was. But even those moments have purpose. They remind you that love, in any form, changes you. It leaves an imprint. But it doesn't define you. You are not what you've lost. You are what you've learned. And in the silence, you learn the most important lesson of all, that you can stand on your own. One day, the silence won't hurt anymore. One day, it will simply feel like quiet. The same silence that once reminded you of what you lost will start to remind you of what you gained: peace, clarity, strength, and the ability to be whole within yourself. You'll realize that the goodbye didn't destroy you, it freed you, that the distance didn't break you, it rebuilt you, and that the silence, the same one that once felt unbearable, became the place where you finally found yourself again. In time, you'll stop fearing the quiet moments. You'll sit in them and feel at ease. You'll understand that silence isn't the end of connection. It's the beginning of understanding. It's where you stop waiting for someone else's voice to comfort you and start listening to the steady rhythm of your own. The silence after goodbye becomes a friend, a reminder that endings don't have to be tragic. They can be sacred. Because sometimes silence isn't the absence of love. It's the presence of peace. There is a rare kind of peace that comes when you learn to let go without hate. It doesn't arrive easily and it doesn't come overnight. It comes after the storms, the crying, the confusion, the long nights spent replaying moments and searching for reasons. It comes after you've exhausted every ounce of anger and every question that never found its answer. It comes quietly, like the sunrise after a long night, when you finally realize that holding on to resentment only chains you to the pain you're trying to escape. Letting go without hate is not about forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional prison that bitterness builds around your heart. Hate has a way of disguising itself as power. It makes you feel strong, as if by resenting the one who hurt you, you're somehow reclaiming control. But hate is deceptive. It doesn't heal, it only keeps the wound open. It ties your energy to someone who has already walked away. It keeps your heart busy with their memory while your soul is trying to move on. When you choose to let go without hate, You take that power back. You decide that your peace matters more than your pride, that your healing matters more than being right. You learn that closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you create when you stop allowing pain to narrate your story. Letting go without hate means seeing things as they are, not as you wished they were. It means understanding that people act from their own level of awareness, pain, and experience. Sometimes the person who hurt you did so not because you deserved it, but because they were fighting battles you could not see. This doesn't excuse their actions, but it explains their humanity. And when you start to see the humanity even in those who hurt you, something inside you softens. You begin to understand that carrying hate only mirrors their pain inside your own heart. To release it is not weakness, it's wisdom. There's beauty in walking away from what broke you without letting it harden you. There's strength in saying, I forgive you, but I will never allow that again. Forgiveness in this sense isn't an invitation for reconciliation, it's an act of self-liberation. It's choosing to rise above the bitterness that tries to keep you small. It's whispering to yourself, I deserve peace more than I deserve payback. Because the truth is, hate keeps you tied to the very energy you're trying to escape. You can't heal from what you're constantly holding in your hands. Letting go means unclenching your fist and trusting that what's gone was never meant to stay. At first, you might mistake numbness for forgiveness. You'll tell yourself you've moved on because you no longer cry when their name comes up. But real letting go isn't about indifference. It's about acceptance. It's about being able to remember without flinching, to look back and understand that every experience, even the painful ones, played a role in shaping your strength. When you reach that point, you no longer need to hate, because you see how life used even your heartbreak to guide you closer to yourself. You begin to thank the pain for what it taught you, to love with more boundaries, to listen to your intuition, to never abandon your worth for someone else's comfort. There's beauty in letting go without hate because it allows you to grow without bitterness. It keeps your heart soft, your spirit light. You learn to bless people as they leave, even when they leave you bleeding. You learn that your grace is your greatest power. You stop demanding apologies from those incapable of giving them, and you stop trying to prove your pain to those who never cared to see it. You start finding peace in the simple act of not reacting. The silence you keep becomes louder than any revenge you could ever imagine. It takes deep courage to let go with love in your heart. It means you've reached a level of understanding that most never do, that hate is not a weapon, it's a weight. Carry it long enough and it becomes part of you. Release it, and suddenly your shoulders feel lighter, your thoughts clearer, your sleep deeper. You begin to notice how beautiful life feels when you're not fighting invisible battles in your mind. You stop needing to win arguments that no longer exist. You start living again, not surviving. When you let go without hate, you also make space for better things to find you. New energy cannot flow into a heart that's still filled with resentment. The universe doesn't give peace to those who hold on to poison. It gives peace to those who create room for it. The moment you stop replaying the past, you allow the present to breathe. You start noticing people who bring calm instead of chaos, moments that bring warmth instead of wounds. The world doesn't suddenly change, the way you see it does. You start seeing beauty again in places where you once only saw pain. Sometimes you won't get an apology. You won't get justice or the satisfaction of being understood. And that's okay. The peace you create by letting go without hate is stronger than any validation you could ever receive. Because hate may make you feel justified, but it never makes you free. True freedom comes when you can think of what happened and feel nothing but acceptance. You no longer wish it had been different. You no longer need to rewrite the ending. You simply know it had to happen that way for you to become who you are now. Letting go without hate is not a single decision. It's a daily practice. Some days forgiveness feels easy. Other days the old anger tries to pull you back. But each time you choose peace over bitterness, you strengthen a muscle inside you. You remind yourself that your soul deserves softness, not resentment. You start living for what's ahead, not what's behind. And in doing so, you realize that the past has no power unless you give it some. The beauty of letting go without hate lies in the transformation it brings. You stop being defined by what happened to you and start being shaped by how you responded to it. You stop chasing closure and start embracing peace. You learn that real strength doesn't roar. It forgives quietly. It walks away without bitterness. It smiles without revenge. And one day, without even noticing, you realize the memories that once hurt no longer sting. The person who once haunted you no longer holds power. You've healed, not because time made you forget, but because you chose love over hate, peace over pain, and freedom over fear. And that is the quiet, unshakable beauty of letting go. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that peace is not something the world gives. It's something they must write for themselves. You can spend years waiting for the world to calm down, for people to change, for life to finally make sense, but peace doesn't arrive through waiting. It's created through choice, through courage, through the quiet decision to take responsibility for your inner state no matter what chaos surrounds you. Becoming the author of your peace means picking up the pen of your own power and refusing to let anyone else write the story of how you feel. It's understanding that while you can't control what happens to you, you can always choose how you respond, how you heal, and how you rise. So many of us live our lives reacting to what others say, do, or fail to give. We let the moods of others dictate our emotional weather. We chase validation as if someone else's approval could grant us calm. But peace doesn't work that way. It's not dependent on external harmony. It's born from internal alignment. When you become the author of your peace, you stop living on emotional autopilot. You stop waiting for someone else to apologize, to understand, to fix things before you allow yourself to breathe again. You start saying, I deserve calm, even if they don't change. That shift changes everything. It turns chaos into clarity. Being the author of your peace doesn't mean you never feel pain. It means you know how to meet your pain without letting it consume you. It means you've learned to pause before reacting, to breathe before breaking, to respond with intention instead of impulse. There's a certain power in that pause, the power to choose peace over pride, understanding over reaction. It's in that space where growth begins. You start realizing that not every battle is worth fighting. Not every opinion needs your defense. Not every misunderstanding deserves your energy. You start protecting your peace like it's your most valuable possession, because it is. There will always be people who misunderstand you, who project their pain onto you, who mistake your silence for weakness. But peace doesn't require you to prove yourself. It asks you to know yourself. When you know who you are, what you value, and where your boundaries stand, the noise around you loses its power. You begin to see that most conflicts are invitations, either to engage in chaos or to choose calm. When you write your own peace, you learn to decline that invitation. You learn to walk away from arguments that only steal your energy. You learn to let others think what they want while you protect what you need. Becoming the author of your piece also means rewriting the narratives you tell yourself. For years, you might have carried stories of not being enough, of always needing to prove your worth, of believing that peace will come someday. But peace doesn't live in someday. It lives in the now, in the way you talk to yourself when you fail, in the grace you give yourself when you fall short, in the way you choose to rest instead of overwork, to breathe instead of break. When you take back authorship, you start editing the lies life has taught you. You start writing truth in their place, that you are enough, that you deserve rest, that peace is your birthright, not a prize you must earn. There's beauty in realizing that peace is personal. What calms one person may not calm another. For some, peace is found in solitude. For others, in meaningful connection. For some, it's found in prayer. For others, in creativity. The art lies in knowing what nourishes your soul and unapologetically prioritizing it. When you are the author of your piece, you no longer wait for permission to rest. You no longer explain why you need distance. You simply honor what your spirit asks for, because you understand that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred. To write your piece, you must also learn the discipline of detachment, not from people or love, but from outcomes. So often we lose our peace because we cling to how things should be instead of accepting how they are. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop suffering over what you can't control. It's choosing to trust life's timing even when it confuses you, to believe that what's meant for you will not require you to lose your peace to keep it. When you master that, you become unshakable. You stop being at the mercy of uncertainty because you carry calm within you wherever you go. Sometimes peace will require you to be misunderstood. It will ask you to walk away from people who thrive on conflict. It will demand silence when your ego wants to shout. It will require you to disappoint others to stay true to yourself. But peace is never about pleasing. It's about alignment. It's about choosing what nurtures your soul over what feeds your image. And the moment you start prioritizing that, you begin to attract people, places, and experiences that match your calm instead of challenge it. Becoming the author of your piece also means embracing stillness. We live in a world that glorifies movement, chasing, achieving, proving, but peace lives in the pause. It lives in quiet mornings, in deep breaths, in moments when you listen to your heart without interruption. When you slow down long enough to hear yourself, you start to notice the subtle ways life speaks to you. You realize that peace isn't something you have to find. It's something you return to once you stop running. Every chapter of your life will test your ability to protect your peace. There will be losses, rejections, disappointments. There will be people who test your patience and circumstances that shake your confidence. But every time you choose not to react, not to hate, not to spiral, you are rewriting your story. You are proving to yourself that you no longer live as a victim of what happens, but as a creator of what comes next. That is authorship. That is mastery. Peace is not perfection. It's not about erasing pain or avoiding difficulty. It's about knowing you can face the storm without becoming it. It's about being so grounded in who you are that no matter what breaks around you, you remain whole within. It's the steady reminder that peace isn't found in the absence of noise. It's found in the strength to stay calm within it. And one day, after all the lessons, all the heartbreaks, and all the rebuilding, you'll look back and realize that peace was never something you were searching for. It was something you were meant to write all along. You were always the author. You just had to remember that the pen was in your hands the entire time. Walking away gracefully is not an act of leaving others behind. It's an act of returning to yourself. It is the dance between strength and softness, the courage to end what no longer serves your peace, and the faith that what's next will honor your worth. So when your soul says, enough, listen, leave with grace, not guilt. Because peace is not found in staying, it's found in knowing when to walk away.